So with that, I will present to you Mr. Madhusudan, who is the CEO of Five Senses Tour. He specializes in cultural tours, walks, and then specializes in motorcycle tours. Madhusudan graduated from BITS Pilani, and then he went on to do his post graduation from MICA Ahmedabad, and then he's also a student of Indian scriptures and has a certification from Harvard X through its scriptures. Madhusudan is a avid trekker and likes to explore countryside with his Royal Enfield motorbike. So with this, I pass it on to Madhusudan. Madhusudan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Farooq. Am I audible to everybody? I hope you can hear me. So, good morning. It's great to speak to all of you. I think, but before beginning, starting my presentation, I must thank Mr. Farooq of this fantastic idea, of coming out with a forum where all stakeholders of Karnataka can talk to each other. And I think it is very good timing as well, because as we all know, these are troubled times, and all of us are sort of worried, and therefore this forum is a great idea so that we can all work together, come out with better ideas for improving tourism in Karnataka. So I like to thank Mr. Farooq again for this timely idea. And now I will just present my screen and we will start with the presentation. Okay, so is my slide clearly available, visible to everybody?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I will start with a very quick introduction, since Mr. Farooq had already done that. And then I have a small module on Unexplored Karnataka. And then I will reveal 2 destinations. So obviously it will be interesting, and I would like all of you to use the chat option to respond to the questions I'm going to ask you. And then we will end with some concluding remarks. So Mr. Farooq had already given me an introduction. So I just want to, just add something that we do 3 kinds of tours actually for people, which are sort of immersive cultural experiences. Our whole idea is how to show authentic India to people, because, India with its rich diversity and history, you just can't come and do sightseeing and understand the ethos of the country. So that's the whole idea of our company, where we try to unpack, authentic India for people. And also we are closely working with local communities, and other than, of course, using them as part of our team and the financial support, I think the more important thing which we are trying to do is to instill a sense of pride in the community. Because as we all know, a lot of the people come to urban areas, take up conventional jobs, and the storytellers are no longer there. See, most of our stories are not in the textbooks. It is in the minds of our people. And if they leave the native places, then the stories die. So one of the key things we are also trying to do is to instill pride, especially when we get people from all over the world to a small town and village, and they come and talk to these people. They also feel, they are living in a great place. And that's one of the things we do. And just to sum up, we do 3 kinds of tours. We have the cultural tours. We also have motorcycle tours. So where we do, using Royal Enfield, a lot of our motorcycle enthusiasts, we do the entire culture tour of India on the motorcycle. And then we also have walks. These are short, 2 to 3 hour walks across all the major cities of India. We are based out of Karnataka, so but we do operate across India. So with this, I have a warm-up session which is called Unexplored Karnataka before I reveal the destination. So we all, obviously all of us love Karnataka, but let's also check how well we know Karnataka. So I'm going to show you a set of questions or pictures, and there'll be a question. So what I would request all of you is to send by chat what your, what your answer is. And of course, I will reveal after checking all the answers. So let's look at this picture. I hope it's clear enough. So I want to know, what is this place? Where is it? And what is special about it? I hope that's clear. Just if you look at the picture, you will get an idea something is happening. So just send me a chat message. What is it? Where is it? And what is special about this? Let's take just 20 seconds and then I'll tell you the answers. And we'll just check how many people are getting it right. Maybe I'll give a clue for, I think some people have already replied. What this actually called KKGSSF. Obviously, it's a mouthful, but it is an acronym. So it's actually called that. So in case that helps. Okay, I think I got a lot of responses. Many of you have got it. So let me tell you about this. This is located in Bengeri. It's basically Karnataka Khadi Gramodaya Samyukta Sangha. And what is important, it is the only authorized unit in India to produce the Indian flag. Obviously, in the next couple of days, we're going to have Republic Day and you're going to see so many flags. So you must remember that all of that is made here. And it's near Hubli. And another interesting aspect is that 90% of the staff are women. As you can see, everybody teaching here are all ladies. So one interesting thing is Karnataka is the only state that has the license to manufacture the Indian flag. So I thought that will be an interesting thing to note. I think many of you already know it, but it's interesting to know. Now let's go to the something international. I think all of us obviously know of Napoleon, the great French conqueror. And we also know that he lost in the Battle of Waterloo. Now, just to get a little more about it, the person who defeated Napoleon in this war was Arthur Wellesley. You know, he was popularly called Iron Duke, those of us who remember history. And he famously defeated Napoleon in Waterloo in 1815. Now, my question is, what is the connection of this great battle with Karnataka? So this is a very interesting question. The Waterloo battle where Napoleon was defeated and that changed the entire course of world history. You know, it is after that that the British became the leading power and French was their biggest competitor. And that's how the sun never sets in the British Empire, you know, happened after that. But there is a connection with Karnataka. And please also note, Karnataka is given in quotes. I will tell you why later. So let's just 10 seconds. Let's see how many people get the answer. When I reveal the answer, you will know it, but maybe it's a little tricky. If you can quickly send me more chat messages. I saw a couple of people who have already got it. Okay, so then let me give you the answers. It is actually Tipu's rockets. I think many of you would be knowing that Tipu Sultan was the pioneer of the first iron-cased rockets in the world. Point to note here is rockets were used in warfare even before Tipu, especially by the Chinese in the 13th and the 14th century. But they were all very flimsy, made of clay and not strong for prolonged warfare. So the first real useful rockets which are iron-cased was actually built by Tipu. And he used it successfully in the Anglo-Mysore War. And many of us will remember, Tipu was one of the few people who ever defeated England during their imperial time. You know, English army was so strong that nobody ever defeated, but Tipu being one of those, and that was primarily because of his rockets. But unfortunately, we all know in the third battle, Anglo-Mysore War, he was also defeated in 1799. And what is important is the British took away all his work on rockets, 600 launches, 700 rockets, and 9,000 empty rockets from his fort. And you know what happened after that? There was a person called William Congreve who actually reverse engineered these rockets. And the rocket which was used by the Iron Duke Wellesley to defeat Napoleon was called the Congreve rocket. But it was actually re-engineered Tipu's rocket. Now, obviously, the way history is written, nobody in Britain would say that it was, due to Tipu Sultan. But it is for us to know this and talk about it, that Tipu's rockets were the ones which were re-engineered, and that helped the British. It's irony, of course. Tipu was their biggest enemy, but they were so smart, they used our technology, and then they defeated Napoleon and became the dominant power in the West. So this was a very interesting story. So let's move on to Yeah, something related here. I told you that Wellesley was, in fact, called Iron Duke. But we must also know that in the initial two wars, the Anglo-Mysore wars, he was so scared when he first saw the rockets, he actually ran away from the battle scene. And he himself has, promised, he made a resolution that he will never show fear in the battlefield again. The rockets of Tipu were so ferocious that such a brave soldier was also scared. And he took a resolution. And it worked. After the resolution, actually, he became the Iron Duke and defeated Napoleon, and the rest is history. In fact, he also became the Prime Minister of Britain later. But it should be interesting for us to note that this Iron Duke's spine of steel was actually forged in Srirangapatna. It was actually Srirangapatna that, brought a turning point in his life, in his strategy for warfare. So again, I don't think you will get this in any history lesson. So it is for us to remember these things and talk about it so that not only us, but the rest of the world also knows about this. So let's move on to the next. Obviously, it's a black and white and a little blurry photograph, so by intention. So please guess this location. You can see the structure, I think, but I'll give you some clues as well. It is fondly called the cradle of architecture. It is a harmonious blend of architectural forms from both North and Southern India. I think by now it should be pretty clear. And the last clue probably will give it away. The literal name of this, the name actually literally means a coronation stone. And it was built specifically for coronation of kings of a very major dynasty of Karnataka. All of us know them, of course, and I think you know this place as well. But let's just have 10 seconds where you can send me the answers. It is one of the most beautiful places on earth. The next slide, I will show the photo in color, but I just want to give another 5-6 seconds if you can guess the place. Oh yes, many people have got it already. I just looked at the chat. So yeah, here is a color photograph. I think now it should be fairly easy. So this is Pattadakal, the second World Heritage Site of Karnataka after Hampi. And I think many of you might have visited it. So now I think this is the easiest of the lot. I just wanted to end this session with something all of us will get it. So, which is the world's tallest monolith statue? I think it's very obvious for anybody who has ever been in Karnataka. But let's just take 5 seconds. And this, I'm sure everybody will get it. So obviously monolith statue, I mean, there are many statues which are taller than this, but they are not made of single stone. By monolith, we mean that it is carved out of a single stone. So yes, as most of you have got it, this is Shravana Belagola. It is 58 feet tall and made more than 1,000 years back. Important Jain pilgrimage. And it's also very conveniently located for, in case there is somebody here who hasn't visited it, it's just a day trip from Bangalore. So please do it. Now, I want to end this warm-up session with just a short video. It's a 90-second video. What I will do is I will let the video run and then we'll come back after the 90 seconds. Okay, so I hope that gave you some interesting places to discover in Karnataka. So I also, I was checking if everybody was paying attention to my presentation. I did make a mistake while speaking, and I was happy many of us actually replied back by chat. I mentioned Republic Day instead of Independence Day, which is coming up. So regarding the flag. So anyway, when you look up the flags during our Independence Day celebration, remember it's all from Bengeri in Karnataka. So let's go to the main section. Now, in this part, I'm going to talk about a particular place which is fantastic, and I will give you clues, and then you can sort of try to guess. The first section was just a warm up to get you thinking. Now this is the main part. So here are the clues. This place is 2,500 years old. It is the oldest town of Karnataka. And those of us who have studied Kannada in school would know about the poet Adikavi Pampa. So in 10th century, he was actually born here. And more interestingly, he said, it is a virtue to be born in this town as a human. I think those who have read Kannada poetry will remember this very well. And not just that, it was immortalized by Kalidasa, probably India's greatest poet, in his masterpiece Meghdut. In fact, he referred to this place. A fantastic garden in this place was covered by Kalidasa. And for those of us who are not into heavy stuff in history and other stuff, it is also famous for pineapples, banana, and ginger. It's actually the pineapple capital. So I think we have an interesting bit of clues. So I'll take 5-6 seconds. If you can just message me, which is this place. Yes, great. We got a lot of correct answers. This is Banavasi. So I think all of us obviously know about it, but I'm not sure how many of us have visited it. But let me start with a video here, which will give you a good idea of, obviously in the current times, it's difficult to reach there, but this video hopefully will give you a virtual tour of Banavasi. Just give me a second. So I hope you got a bird's eye view of the best, the center of Banavasi, which is the Madhukeshwar temple. Now let's just have a look at what makes Banavasi incredible. So actually, it has a fantastic legacy, a rich historical legacy. In fact, the first mention of this place is in Mahabharata. It is called actually Vanavasaka. It is most famous as the first Kannada kingdom, when it became the capital of Kadambas in the 4th century, 345 AD specifically. Not only that, it was a great center of learning for different schools of thought. It was a Buddhist learning center, home to more than 100 monasteries, and there were more than 10,000 monks living in the 7th century. So it was like the Harvard or Stanford of the 7th century. Just like Nalanda and other places, it was equally popular. And then not just that, it was also an important center for Jainism. In fact, today when we visit Banavasi, one of the things we must visit is actually there is a lane called Kanchipet Lane, where there is a very beautiful Jain temple next to the temple, to the Madhukeshwara temple. Other than the historic legacy, in fact, it's quite an irony. I am covering Banavasi, saying it's an unexplored place of Karnataka. But 1,000 years back, it was famous globally. So that's the irony of today. It was referred to as Banausi by Ptolemy, the great Greek geographer, as far as back in the 1st century, because there was still a small town at that time, famous for trading. And then even in the 7th century, when Yuan Sang, the famous Chinese traveler who visited India, in fact, he was enamored by the sandalwood handicrafts. His book has this specific mention about this place. So it had amazing global recognition, and we should bring it back to the international forum. Other than that, it's a great cultural hotspot. As I said, it was the inspiration for Kalidasa for his magnum opus, and Adikavi Pampa also wrote he was born here and he penned most of his poems here. Plus, it is a key center for Yakshagana, the composite art form, which is probably the most famous dance of Karnataka, which tells a beautiful story with costumes and such a color. I think most of us would have seen a show in that. So this is a great place to come and experience that. Plus, it also is home to Gudigar artisans who do fantastic artwork, whether it's garlands, basingas, flowers, bridal hair accessories. So a complete package. It's not just about history and legacy. It's a thriving, cultural heritage, all aspects of song, music, dance, poetry, literature. Everything is available here. And in fact, the government of Karnataka is doing a fantastic job. There is a festival, I think many of us know, called Kadambotsav. That happens every year in between Jan and Feb for 2 days. This is to commemorate the first Kannada kingdom. And it is full of classical music and dance charges, performances, even agriculture, because it's a key center for agriculture. There are agricultural shows. And the culture department, in fact, has instituted an award called the Pampa Award for Literature. And there's something for the kids as well. There's a kids cultural meet which happens. So this is a great time to visit. It happened this year as well. And hopefully by next year, our current situation will be better and we'll all get an opportunity to go. And yes, coming to pineapples, like I said, Banavasi is the pineapple capital of India. I don't know if you all know, there is a person called Dr. Rauf Sheikh. He's called the pineapple king, actually. He was awarded the doctorate for innovative technique in drip irrigation. And what is interesting is not just the water, but even the fertilizer, he supplies it through drip tubes. And I think this is an important part of the whole experience of Banavasi. When we visit, we should also visit his farm, where he has people who will tell us about, his experiential way of irrigation. So that's another interesting part for those who love experiential travel. So planning a visit, it is about 375 kilometers from Bangalore. So obviously it's not a day trip, but we can do it over a weekend. Ideally 3 to 4 days is good. The nearest railway station is at Haveri, 70 kilometers away. And the best place to stay will be Sirsi. Sirsi is just 18 kilometers away and you have decent hotels there. So we can stay there. And like I said, the best time to visit would be Kadambotsav, where you'll get a lot of cultural shows, or even Mahashivratri is good. And all of us happens in the Jan or Feb. Otherwise, it's okay for rest of the year. But in case you have a choice, this is the best time to visit. So I would like to end with the little translation of what Adikavi Pampa talked about Banavasi. So I quote him: "It is a virtue to be born in Banavasi as a human. If not as a human, then at least one should be born as a bee or a cuckoo in the garden of Banavasi. So I think this is motivation enough for all of us to next plan a visit to Banavasi. And also, I also was curious to know when I thought about this topic, I wasn't sure how many of you have actually visited it. I'm sure all of you would have heard about it. So those of you who have visited, if you can just drop in a message with me saying yes, it'll just satisfy my curiosity. If you can just mention yes if you have visited and no if you have not. Yeah? Thank you. Now I have a second destination and we'll go through the same flow. So I'll give you some clues and then we can see how many of us are able to guess this. So here are the clues. It is an ancient site on a riverbed. It has an identical twin in Cambodia. It's called, Bal Spain in Cambodia, and it is located very near Angkor Wat, the World Heritage Site and the world's largest temple. I think all of us would have heard about it. It's very near that. Interestingly, it has again, it has about 1,000 lingas on the riverbed, each facing a Nandi bull statue. So I think that was the biggest clue. If you can just quickly tell me which place are we talking about, 5 seconds, and then I'll reveal the destination. I think this is a lot easier probably. Let's see. Okay, so we got a lot of correct answers. So we are talking about Sahasralinga. So again, I have a introductory video. So let's have a look for a virtual tour of the place, and then we will talk more about why it's a great place. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed a glimpse of Sahasralinga. So let's talk a little more about it. I think what's great is this fusion of nature and art. We have a spectacular river Shamala, which is gushing along. You have 1,000 Shivalingas carved on the banks. Each has a Nandi facing it. I don't know if you noticed that during the video. And it was built by Sadashivaraya of the Vijayanagar kingdom between 1678 and 1718. And his motivation was basically he was looking for an heir to his throne. So that's when he prayed to Lord Shiva and built this. So other than the fusion of nature and art, I think the other interesting aspect is the Cambodian connection, which I talked about before we started this whole section. So Bal Speen is an ancient Khmer site in a national park in Cambodia, as I said, very close to the Angkor Wat. And interestingly, it too has a river, and there are 1,000 Shivalingas. So can you believe it? And this was built earlier, actually, in the 11th century by King Uditya Varman when Cambodia was under the Hindu influence. And not just Shiva, the sculptures here belong to Vishnu, reclining on Anantasesha, Lakshmi, Brahma, Uma riding Nandi. So I think that also makes it a very interesting talking point. So that is my next point. Actually, we have a story of South India as an imperial power. Now, if you go to our history books, the way Western history talks about imperialism is that it is a European concept, and the Portuguese were the first with Vasco da Gama and all that, and then the British came, and all imperialism means European. But 500 to 800 years back, South India was already an imperial power. In fact, the Cholas were the great naval power. It was started by the Pallavas, and then Cholas became a global power in naval, and their biggest export was actually Indian culture. In fact, the dominant deities of South Indian temples influenced the temples of Southeast Asia, whether it's Cambodia, Burma, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia. In those days, between the 6th to 10th century, all the temples in these places had the deities which South India was having. And so the parallels between Sahasralinga and Bal Speen is not coincidence. That's the whole point. And like I mentioned earlier, these things, we have to tell our stories. I mean, obviously, the West and the other people who have made our curriculum, it all started with Lord Macaulay, but it's been so many years after independence and we still don't tell our own stories. That's a tragedy. But obviously, we're making improvements. So the point here is we must talk about ourselves more and tell about our heritage. And that is our duty. That's the point I wanted to make. So other than all the history and all that, it is also a fantastic biodiversity spot. In fact, the Western Ghats Task Force has declared Sahasralinga as a natural, heritage site under the Biodiversity Act. And not just rich flora and fauna, this place has rare medicinal herbs, plants, especially for Ayurvedic medication. So anybody interested in that will also find this place very interesting. So in terms of location, it's about 38 kilometers from Banavasi. Again, Haveri at 70 kilometers is the nearest railway station. And best is to stay in Sirsi and do both Banavasi and Sahasralinga over 3 to 4 days, ideally. 3 days is also possible. That will be a great way to experience these two places. And but Sahasralinga is better between October and March because if you want to see all the lingas, because it is obviously part of the great biodiversity place. A lot of rain happens and you can't see rains during the monsoon. So, but this is the time period when Banavasi is also great. So this time would be best to see both the places. So this whole main section concludes where I just request all of us to visit Banavasi and Sahasralinga. And I want to say, while they are technically not a World Heritage Site, these are no less than any World Heritage Site. It is up to us to make them technically a World Heritage Site. And I just finished with my main sections. Now I just have a little bit of concluding remarks. After that, we can probably talk a little more. So I just want to say that to me, Karnataka is heritage personified. We have two World Heritage Sites in the form of Hampi and Pattadakal, which we talked about. But more importantly, we have many more hidden gems, all lying unexplored. And I think that is what motivated Mr. Farooq also to set up this forum. And it is important that we visit these places and bring them to light. And it's not just one dimension. No, it's not just about history and culture. We have a rich wildlife also in Karnataka, as we all know, and one of the few places where actually tigers can be visited during safari. Plus, we have vibrant art and culture also. So it's multi-dimensional and it is very fulfilling for whether domestic travelers or international travelers. Karnataka has everything to offer. But at this point, I want to talk about a famous quotation, of Ibn Battuta. I think many of you would have heard of him. And those who remember history will know that he was a scholar and traveler from Morocco who visited India and other parts of Asia in the 14th century along the Silk Route. So his famous quote on traveling is very interesting, and it has relevance for today's presentation. So I wanted to quote him: "Traveling, it leaves you speechless and then turns you into a storyteller." So I think this is a fantastic essence of traveling, and I think it is very relevant for us, especially in Karnataka. So I would like all of us in this forum who have Karnataka, in their hearts, to make a resolution that is to become traveling storytellers. So I think we should travel more first, learn more about our own heritage. There is so much to see and learn, and then remember our history and bring it alive. And we have to talk more about our heroes and achievements. Like I said, the Western history or even the Indian curriculum doesn't cover all our heroes. And here, in fact, I would like to take us back to the last session which Arjun made on Hampi. It was a fantastic presentation because we all know Krishnadevaraya. He was a historical figure. But the way he talked about it, now we could visualize him in flesh and blood, right? I think most of you will agree, those who listened to him last time. So that is my exact point, that we need to bring alive our heroes, into flesh and blood characters, so that we keep alive, our cultures and tradition. So in that note, my presentation ends, but I'll be happy to discuss any points and any other discussions we have.
Madhu, can you tell us, you told us, Sirsi is the base for visiting both
Yes.
Banavasi and Sahasralinga. But
Right.
for the interest of other people who don't know Karnataka much, can you
Right.
tell us, can you tell them how to reach by the various modes of transportation?
Yeah. Yeah, I think see, there are two ways to reach. Like I said, those who are people coming from other parts of India, those who are comfortable with train travel, I mean, Haveri is the closest station. But I think if you are coming first time to Karnataka or new, then it's better to come to Bangalore, see the other places here also, and then drive down to Sirsi. You should plan 3 days. So reach Bangalore either by, obviously you can come by flight or any other mode to Bangalore. And from Bangalore, it's about a 6 to 7 hour drive. First go to Sirsi, rest for the first day, spend a couple of days, depends on how much time you have. You can do, I think 3 to 4 days is ideal, so you can relax, see all the time. If the season is good, you can come to Joke Falls also. I think some of you would have noticed the Joke Fall part of my video. It was taken, in fact, just 4 days back by my colleague, so it is fantastic right now. So that's another thing you can do. So just drive down from Bangalore. I think that's the best because the route is also great, and spend 4 days and then come back to Bangalore and go back to where you're coming from. Yes. Any other aspects of today's presentation? Anybody has some views? Anything else? I'll be happy to discuss.
If we want to cover up these two locations with Joke Falls, how much days are required?
See, like I said, ideally 4 days will be good for this route, where you come the first day to Bangalore, drive down to Sirsi. In fact,
Right.
Sirsi has hotels as well as homestays close to Joke Falls, which are very good. And then if the season is good, during the rainfall, then you can spend half a day in Joke Falls. And then there's also, after that, you can spend, the next couple of days between Banavasi and Sahasralinga. Then it also depends on other interests. See, there are a lot of trekking places also, which maybe if anybody is interested, they can drop a message to me. I can send itineraries for treks also, where you can, there are fantastic places for half day to, a full day trek in those areas, the Western Ghats. But if it's a regular cultural tour, I think 4 days will be ideal. Bangalore, day 1 exit, and day 4 you're back after seeing Joke Falls, Banavasi and Sirsi.
Thank you so much.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Akshay, and I'm pursuing my MBA in Tourism Christ University. So I have one doubt. Just as you were explaining about giving us the clues about Banavasi, you mentioned about Kalidas.
Yeah.
So can you, sir, just explain the relationship with Banavasi and Kalidas?
Yeah, so there is see, if you have read the Meghdut, see, it's been a very long time. I did read Meghdut, but it's a very many years back. But what is interesting is the connection is that in his story in Meghdut, he refers to a garden. Actually, that garden is there in Banavasi. Just if you visit the Madhukeshwar temple, you will, from there, it's not far. So those days, that garden was a fantastic place for inspiration. And not just Adikavi Pampa, but Kalidasa had also visited here. And that garden is what sort of captivated him. And he talked about See, you know how Kalidasa is. I don't know if you've read his works. You know, he brings in beauty through his verses. So, and he needs inspiration for all that. So, the garden in Banavasi was one of his inspiration, and he equates it to the epitome of beauty. Actually. Obviously, in some, read more about it. So then you will find out.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Hello. Hi, this is Gaurisha. I run.
Yeah. Right.
Hi. This is kind of almost unrelated. I run a homestay near Joke Falls,
Oh, okay. What is the name of your homestay, sir?
Ajjanamane.
Yeah, I know. I'm very familiar with that.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, the fact that we are doing destination-based marketing and all is encouraging to me
Right.
because we are 15 kilometers from Joke Falls.
Right.
And obviously, we have taken a beating with the coronavirus stuff, but
Right.
we'll survive that, I guess. But the point, a couple of questions I had. This may not be related to the topic. I've visited Banavasi. I've visited all of this. Agree,
Yeah.
it's a fantastic place to visit. And
Yeah.
I think people can come in. Sirsi would be ideal point, but
Yes.
Joke Falls would also be a fairly good point to come
Right.
in and then
Right.
walk around. Yeah. So I had some questions regarding the tourism and the latest licensing and stuff like that, which is more legal from a homestay perspective. I think everything went off the radar this year. So how do I get in touch with the department?
I think Mr. Farooq probably will be the right person to answer this.
Yeah, the gentleman, if there are no more questions to Madhu, I think, and then finally I will take 5 minutes. In that
Okay,
5 minutes, I will let you
sorry,
know
Madhu, sorry.
what to be done for recognition from Ministry of Tourism. If there are no questions from anybody to Madhu, I will take it up. If there are any questions, please go ahead.
Madhu,
Yeah.
just ask the gentleman to post link about his homestay.
Sure. Sir, you can anyway post it in the group. I think people are interested in your homestay.
I've done it. I've done it already. Right. Thank you.
Oh,
Okay,
okay,
thank you.
that is good.
So it was a great time for me talking about Karnataka, and I hope it gave you some ideas. And I look forward to the other presentations in this series. Nice meeting you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Madhu, for the wonderful presentation. It was like a lively experience for us, Madhu.
Thank
It kept us on the toes. As I told you, most of the viewers should have put their thinking cap and would be wondering what they would have guessed it the right way. Most of the people, I think, they guessed the Banavasi, but Sahasraliga, I think
Yeah.
only few were there. So,
Right.
fantastic presentation, Madhu. Thanks again. And, especially the orientation or the comparison between ball skiing in Cambodia. That was the news for me. I didn't know about it. So I think for all the viewers, safety is a place, and you should definitely visit these two destinations, which are promising destinations. And especially Sahasraliga with 1,000 lingas. I am not very sure if there are any other destination which is of similar characteristics. So, Madhu, thanks again for enlightening us with beautiful two ancient towns of Karnataka, Madhu.
Thank you, sir. It is a
It's also good to hear from homestay operators near that place.
right.
So this platform actually gives a very good opportunity for all stakeholders to interact and share their experiences and also promote their properties in the form of homestays or estates. Good news. So we are taking. I mean, the idea behind holding this webinar, I think, is very positive. With that, there was a gentleman who asked about homestay recognition. Ministry of Tourism as well as state government of Karnataka has approval procedures for homestay recognition.
Sir, I have a specific question. We are already approved by India Tourism, but the renewal process also we have done it once. Now we have applied for renewal, and the website says everything is approved and pending inspection. Now it's almost a year since that point.
The
So
Corona stage,
can I answer this?
we are not able to venture out for our inspections. There are a lot of. You can keep in touch with our office. You can contact our office. We will let you know when this inspection will be scheduled. And we were just waiting for the corona to settle down. So once it settle down, we'll definitely come and inspect your property for recognition.
Perfect, sir. So who do I get in touch with, or how do I get in touch with?
Gopal, can you give the phone numbers, please?
Yeah. You can call me. My number. Take my number.
I'll take your number one moment.
You can put it in the chat box, Gopal.
Yeah, I'll do it, sir.
Yeah, that will be easier for me. Thank you.
So thanks once again, all the viewers, for taking your time to take part in the webinar. So next week, same time, Wednesday, that is 19th, we will have another fantastic presentation on Rudrapatna, Sangeet Grama. So that's a wonderful forward for you to come and give your attendance for that webinar too. And meanwhile, stay safe and a happy Independence Day, and in the social distancing, and keep safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Farooq. Thank you.
Thank you.